Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of On Point. We have with you some of the greatest minds of our time, getting ready to talk about issues affecting our nation, and there's a lot to talk about. With me are three of the best minds when it comes to Liberian politics, Liberian religion, Liberian issues. We are going to be talking about issues affecting us in Liberia. We have several interesting topics. Before I go to the topic, let me introduce our panelists. Mr. Jimmy Eastman is coming to us live from Washington, D.C. We have Mr. Padmore coming to us from the land of the Vikings in Minnesota. And then we have our brother, intellectual, Mr. Dualo from Massachusetts. We are going to be talking about sports. I know most of you are disappointed if you know what I'm talking about. And those of us who are from the Southeast, from the Miami area, we are happy. Florida is on the map. But before we go into sports, let's introduce ourselves and see where we are coming from. Mr. Eastman, let's begin with you. How's your day and how's the family? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Mr. Gilman. This is a cloudy day in the nation's capital, but we are grateful that we get to see another day. We are looking at this 2023 being a year of reservation. There's a lot of things we will need to face, and it's only through our stern resiliency will we make it. But on our hometown front, there's so many things that we have to line up. We have a very important election coming this year. And before we reach there are many other obstacles to getting there. So I'm very happy to be a part of this conversation to discuss these things and bring them to light.
Thank you very much. And our first participant on the show, Mr. Riverside Pro. He's, according to him, he's watching from Riverside County, if that's true. Welcome. Mr. Dualo, how you doing, sir? And thank you very much for making the time. I know you usually when you're coming from church with your family, and you take the time to chime in. But you wrote a very interesting article that we'll be talking about today. But tell me how you feel, and Happy New Year to you and the family.
Happy New Year to everybody, Mr. Eastman, Mr. Palmore. It's always a tremendous pleasure, as Mr. Eastman said. This is a crucial time in our nation's history. This year will determine a lot of good things for Liberia or possibly bad things if we make the wrong decision. God's been good to us. 2023 has begun on a very good footing, and we continue to hope and pray for the best for Liberia. But I would say to the audience and to the panelists, we cannot stop pushing for what is good for Liberia, irrespective of our political leanings. At the end of the day, all that matters should be the elevation of Liberia. Once again, Mr. Gayman, thanks for the invitation.
Thank you very much. And also my brother here, Mr. Padmore, as always, very astute, right in the middle. He calls it as he sees it. But what I like to engage Mr. Padmore is that he is actually, believe it or not, balanced. Yeah, he has a little biases once in a while. He leans one side. But when you're talking about somebody who is balanced, he can take it, but he also give it. Mr. Padmore, welcome. Happy New Year. How's the family? And what's happening in your neck of the woods?
Thank you so much, Mr. Gaiman. Happy New Year to all of you. Happy New Year to Liberians everywhere. It is a new year, a time for us to retrospect on the past year, on the things that we didn't get right, on the things that we started but have not finished. And hopefully we can organize and strategize ourselves so that we have a fruitful 2023. Just be hanging out with the family, enjoying Pioneers Day, and so yeah, so I'm ready to get into the mix. So let's go.
Beautiful. Let me recognize a few folks. Mr. Hassan Connor, who's watching from New Jersey, and a special guest here, Mr. Daniel Koti, watching from the Baptist Theological Seminary in Liberia. Awesome. Thank you very much for watching, sir, and we look forward to engaging with you. Mr. Daniel Kier from Zwedru City, Grand Junior County. Wow. Daniel, welcome. Gentlemen, we have an opportunity here to actually discuss issues, some very, very important issues. And I'm going to read them as I go across. But please do us a favor and share the show with your network, please. Let me make sure that we have enough people participating in these discussions. As it pertains to Liberia, we need everybody's voice or voices. Nobody has an absolute bullet to our issues in Liberia. It depends upon us. It is incumbent upon us to continue to talk and discuss as we tackle these issues. We are going to begin today by looking at the issues in Liberia. Number one on the list, we are talking about weapons or arms being captured in Liberia that came through our port authority. What are the implications? How brazen can this be? There's truth to this thing that they call there's a correlation between stupidity and crime. This got to be one of it to bring illegal weapon in broad daylight, like a criminal hiding in plain sight. Can there be an election without accurate census in Liberia? We're going to discuss that. And then there's a major thing growing in Liberia about the Western cluster. The deal in the Western cluster. There's a lot of money we heard been missing. People are saying $350 to $400 million have been paid to the Liberian government since 2011. Yet, the Liberian people have not received a dime from what we understand. It is true. We delve into that. We're also going to be looking at Pioneers Day in Liberia. Is it time for us to replace President's Day with Pioneers Day? I like the idea. There are some who don't like it. We're going to discuss that. And finally, Mr. Dualo is here. As you all know, Dualo is a very brilliant young man who writes very well. I like his writing, even though I disagree with most of his conclusions. But he's making the case why President Weah should not be reelected. And he's going to make that case. Obviously, I disagree with him, but he's going to make the case. And we're going to discuss that, why President Weah should not be reelected. And then I'm going to make a counterclaim why President Weah should be reelected. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rock and roll. We are talking about illegal weapons coming through our ports. Mr. Patmore, when you and I spoke on several occasions, we talked. When you and I were talking, or when we have a discussion, I seem like the odd person because I have never experienced war. Never went through the war. Had no idea what the war was all about. We only heard about it. We protested about it. We made contribution towards our family. But there's nothing, according to you or everybody else, there's nothing like being on the ground and experiencing the wrath of war. Those of you who have gone through this war and experienced the mayhem, when you hear things about arms being transported or trafficked into the country, what does that say to you all that went through this, our nation, and every child that is being born in Liberia?
So I have two approaches to this. The first one is I really believe that no Liberian right now wants war in that country. Whether they live in the country, whether they live out of the country, whether they experience war or not, I truly believe no Liberian wants war right now. And my second approach really was there are too many unanswered questions. I sincerely believe that the Liberian National Police, the Joint Security Forces, they were too eager to come out and present this. I think they should have done a lot more investigation. And because they did not, so there are a lot of unanswered questions. One, who owned the arms? What was the purpose of the arms? How many containers, similar containers, have been shipped into the country? Where did they go? We all know that there are people in America who engage in the business of shipping. They ship containers. People carry their barrels, their boxes to them, or they come and pick it up and they ship it to Liberia. Does that mean the shipper is responsible for the arms? Does that mean that the shipper is the one that was shipping the arms? We've all heard about this from Ellen Johnson time. I think even Judy Bryant time. Liberians have been sending arms to Liberia. Everybody know this. They are going to get in Liberia. Liberia does not have the permission to import arms. Yet there are arms in Liberia. They are not there from 1990. Those arms are rusty and gone. The arms that are in Liberia today are arms that were shipped to Liberia. Handguns are in many homes. People do it for self-protection. What exactly was this? Was this somebody sending arms to Liberia to sell? Was this somebody sending arms to Liberia for another purpose? Was this somebody sending arms to dislodge the government? There are too many questions. I think that when the police came out and said this, I think they ejected too much too soon without having the requisite answers. So now we have to play Monday morning quarterback. We have to sit. We have to wait to hear more from the government. What I'm hoping dearly is that there is a conclusion. Like a lot of things in Liberia, they start off and there are no conclusions. I'm hoping that this government, this Liberian, the Joint Security, whoever is doing the investigation, that they conclude this investigation and inform the Liberian people and say, this is the conclusion. This is what we've come to. Don't let it just linger and just die away 2 weeks from now when something else comes out again. Please, that's my solemn hope.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning of the show, I told you about Mr. Dualu, a family man coming from church with his family. He took the time to park and gave us some time. So if you see the kids in the background, we welcome that, Mr. Dualu. We applaud you for being Mr. Dad. That's awesome to see you spend time with your children. Here we are, Mr. Dualu. We are talking about arms, the quantity of arms, the type of ammunition, the type of arms that have been sent to Liberia, and the quantity brings back, for those who are in the war, flashback. And people are traumatized when they see something of this nature. I am in the South. I'm a member of the NRA. We like our guns, but nothing compared to what I saw in Liberia and what the reason. I have no idea. Your take on this?
I'm going to say this. I listened to Mr. Pat Moore, and he did say something I slightly disagree with nobody wanting war in Liberia anymore. I agree with that statement, but I disagree in this fashion. If the conditions that bring about war in a society, if those conditions persist, you cannot say nobody wants war, because people are put into that position that brings about war. So we could actually have a country that implode if the current conditions in Liberia continue the way they are going on this lackadaisical leadership style of President Weah. But I want to say they want the issue of arms. I'm going to give the government the benefit of the doubt. I believe the police director was extremely cavalier about the way he addressed this issue. There are still a lot of questions to be asked. I don't believe anybody can ship that number of arms out of these United States without it being tracked in some fashion. There's a lot of questions to be asked, and he did not explain them properly. Number two, the way he displayed the weapons, even before you open the container. What are the videotapes concerning this? How do you get a warrant? He did not get a warrant to open that container. The warrant was gotten for the house. So, in fact, all those arms that were displayed, they cannot hold up in court. They will be thrown out. So, you have a police department that is not taking their responsibility very seriously. Now, I don't believe all those arms were shipped out of the United States. And I have reasons to say that, because if the police director of the Republic of Liberia can reach out to the Justice Ministry today, and if those arms were shipped out of the state of Texas, they can actually call the Attorney General out of Texas. They can call the local port out of Texas. They can tell you exactly who shipped those arms. They can tell you how many arms were shipped. They can actually pull out the scan of the container from that port. So there's so many questions, and there is no freaking way all that number of arms were shipped out of the United States without any form of trackability whatsoever. So there's a lot of questions to be asked, but like I said, I will give the government of the Republic of Liberia the benefit of the doubt. They have a lot of explaining to do before I can make a conclusion. And I'll give it back to you.
Mr. Eastman, I have been part of a lot of, when I was a member of the NAACP, in my city here, there were a lot of arrests for young black men. And the NAACP got involved, and I was one of those who were asked to ride with the sheriff department to go on stings, how they arrest folks and how long some of these investigations go. And at one time, it was the local police, the local sheriff, the ATF, all into one. And some of the investigation they called dragnet. When the drug were coming to the city, they made sure that they were buying in successive fashion. They went from the street peddlers all the way to the sellers, to the distributor, the main guy, the guy who brings the drug from South America on the yacht and all of those are the folks they were looking for. So some of these investigations went through a whole year. And the United States government will allow those drugs to come through. They want to make sure that it goes to the end product, then they grab everybody. So, like the police chief said in Liberia, if the U.S. intelligence was a part of this, like he said, he said he thanked the U.S. for helping out. I would want to believe if this was a dragnet, the United States government would have allowed this to go through so they can find the end user and drag everybody into it. Mr. Eastman, your take on this?
Okay, so Mr. Gaiman, just like you asked if you've been through war. Yeah, I've been through the 1979 to 1980 coup d'etat, the 1990 and the 1991 that led to the 14-year war. And it is one of the most scary things Liberians will attest. Hearing bombs going off, not knowing which one of the bombs will land on you. And personally, I was in a full-scale attack, being a lead at the LEC, transmission distribution. So I don't even know how I survived, but it just wasn't my time. So I think Liberians are wary of war. But with this case in particular, let's examine it for the core, just the empirical things we have. We have a consignment of arms that was seized. Okay. If you remember, not too long ago, there was a consignment of drugs that was seized. These, when you see, because these are arms, people make speculation that somebody trying to do something subversive to the government. But this, to me, it looks like another discovery where criminals are taking advantage of the new process they have at the port. They used to have a process at the port they call the reshipment destination inspection. And they changed that process to destination inspection. And now we are seeing that doing this process twice now, they have discovered some illegal contraband products being shipped. So I want to believe that this is what is really occurring, that the process now is revealing that there are criminal activity going on in the country, and the drugs or the arms are not necessarily destined for Liberia. However, using our ports and our land and our borders as a transport point is just as dangerous because it could fall in the wrong hands. So that's where I'm more led to believe that this is this conspiracy of anybody trying to overthrow or do anything like that. I just think there's some criminal activity that was discovered, and we're looking to see the end of it, like Mr. Padmo said.
If I may give some information
Yes,
here.
go ahead, Mr. Padmore.
So I've spoken to several people in Texas, right? And for example, the gentleman, the shipping guy, Barkley, he's in custody. So the Texas state did act. He's in custody. The story he's telling is that it wasn't his shipment. He shipped a container, but it wasn't his barrel, it wasn't his box. He just shipped it for people, And that, so we're having this story now. But when I spoke to somebody this morning, they said that he had been arrested by the authorities in Texas and was being investigated. This is America. One of the things the police didn't let us know, do these guns have serial numbers? They didn't say anything about it. Because if they have serial numbers, they can trace it all the way back to the point of sale. Who actually bought these guns? How many guns did they buy? Was it bought illegal? So all these things they haven't done. And so when you just come to a public that has experienced war and just go straight to war, you put the whole country on edge. Going into elections, So I just wanted to give that update. That was the message, the information I got from Texas.
But Mr. Gibbon, I want to say this.
Yes,
I agree with what Mr. Palmer was saying, but I want you to understand something. There's that many number of weapons. If you're going to ship them to Liberia, it does not make business sense for you to buy them from the United States. A typical AR-15 in this country or an AK-47 will range between $800 to $2,000 for one of them, based on so many factors. I can buy that same AK-47 for $156 in South America, in Eastern Europe, even in China. Why would I want to buy that normal quantity of weapons out of the United States and ship them to Liberia? What's the profit margin on it for me? It doesn't make sense. Like Mr. Eastman said, it could be criminal activity. It could be used to have a country as a conduit to ship across certain borders because we have this lax border system in Liberia. But like I said, there's a lot of questions to be asked, and I just wanted to be aware of that.
Yes, and one of the reason that Texas, I'm in Florida, when I go purchase my gun, at least they will have to do my background check right there on the spot. In other states like Texas, there's no background check. You can just walk right to the store and purchase your arm. And in fact, you can. It's a carrying state. You can carry your gun.
Yeah, not that many weapons.
Yeah, I know. But like most of the people who collect weapons, they buy them one at a time. They
Correct.
don't. They don't buy them all at once. You buy it once at a time. When you look at some friends that I have here, when you look at their war chest, I mean, they are just gun enthusiasts. They are not criminals. They just collect a lot of guns, and it's an investment. They put a lot of money into their guns, and then for resale value, these days somebody carry a lot of money. When you go to these gun shows, this is a sense of pride. People, you said this gun was passed down to me 3 generations ago, and this and that. So all of these things are part of it. So yeah, it is possible for one person to buy that many. The idea is for one person to have the gall to ship that many at once. And in this country, if you buy your gun in Florida that is legal here, and you go across state line and you get into a state like Virginia or New York or Washington, D.C., you are in some serious trouble. Forget about going across international line. Now you are in trouble with the UN embargo, ECOWAS, and all of that. So this is huge. This is big stuff. But yes, This is major here, and the government has all right to alarm that if you are doing this, if you are shipping arms, you are actually doing it at your own peril because it is illegal. And at that rate, for a country that just came from war, a country that is lax, a country that does not have the kind of security apparatus as the United States, yes, there are people that are willing to do harm, especially those gone with the kind of scopes that they have. We are talking about sniper weapons. Those are dangerous. But let's move on to the next subject here. We've been talking about some serious issue.
So you want to talk about the politics of it?
But yeah, you can bring it up.
I mean, so let's talk about the politics of it.
Okay.
When the president tells you, when Liberians speak about security, and the president says buy a CCTV, basically he's telling you you're on your own. So I mean, if I'm going to Liberia, and I'm going to Liberia to stay, and I know that I'm a man of means, do I sit and make myself vulnerable? We know what happened to Tobot, to what's his name? We know what happened to John Todman. We know what happened to all these people.
Yep.
Do you just leave yourself vulnerable, or do you find a way to protect yourself? And then afterward, we'll explain that back. But and I'm saying this because I think the government needs to step up. I think when the president comes on and talks about everybody must get CCTV, I think that is not enough. Okay, I believe the Liberian National Police, the Joint Security, they need to step up. We need a more effective security. If we want investment in our country, if we want people to move back and invest in our country, we need to be serious about security. Because if you're not serious, the first law is self-preservation. You can make any other law after that. You can make guns illegal. You can do whatever. If that man feels unsafe, he will do what he can to protect himself. And if that means possessing illegal arms, he will do it. Because when that armed robber come and hit his door at night, and he got gun on him, there's no law there that will make him comfortable other than that. So that's my take on it. That's my take on it.
Mr. Pablo, and I love that take, but I will say this to you. Everything you say makes 100% sense, but there is a flawed premise. Your assertion on the premise that you have a leader that understands or even have the capacity to comprehend what you're saying. President Weah is not in the position to even understand anything you just said. This is a problem. Our major problem in the country is the leadership of President Weah. He doesn't understand the consequences of poor security in the society. He does not understand that. And that's the reason why you make a foolish comment like, when you have the average person in Liberia living on less than $2 per day, a CCTV camera in an environment with no electricity, how do you expect people to even survive in that location? I'll give it to Mr. Gaiman. I guess he got justifications for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why I like this show, and I like to talk to. I wanted to leave the politics out of this, but I'm glad that the ANC guy brought it up. And he said the president mentioned that everybody should have a CCTV. So that means the country is not safe. But Mr. Cummings is the one who constantly said this country is not safe. Does Cummings know something that we don't know? Is Cummings contributing to this to the fear and the unsafety of this country? Is Cummings behind this arm? Does Cummings have a motive? And you're hearing it from the ANC man. He said, if the country is not safe, you go all out and buy your own gun and make it. It's Cummings buying guns to make himself safe in this country. Cummings is afraid. It's Cummings buying these guns to secure his compound, his investment, his whole multitude of Mr. Eastman. I didn't want to go there, but I'm glad that the ANC folks brought it up, that the country is not safe so much that everybody will buy illegal guns. This is Cummings, a man with a lot of money that can buy a lot of guns. And this is where we are going. We think Cummings got something up his sleeve. I'm not saying it's a premise that I drew from the ANC. Mr. Eastman, you draw it in your head. Go ahead, sir.
We can go around and speculate. I'm not one of speculation. I believe in calculated estimations based on data, but not just pure speculation. To look at Cummings to be one behind you have to look. I will look at previous data on him before I will make such a accusation. again, I said it looks more like criminal activity to me. There were also speculation that it was someone in the government that was trying to stage this thing to gain sympathy. There's a I mean, speculations are all about. But what we have here is a cache of arms that were captured, like we have a cache of drugs. Whatever happened to the drugs? Did they trace it back to all the people? I heard some people escaped. I'm sure if we follow the trail of this cache of arms, we'll know to the end. But let's hold back speculation at this point. It is a dangerous thing to start implicating people in arms activity. It's a very dangerous thing, and I will be the last one to do it to anybody. So I would say let's hold our thoughts, and let's wait till we get more detailed information on it. It shouldn't be that difficult. Even if the man who shipped the container, he knows everybody that loaded his container. And he should be able to trace every barrel, every suitcase, every bag that he sent. Most of them are even labeled. And I also noticed that they were linked to a house in Brewerville that claimed had more ammunition there. This is not so. In other words, this is not the first time. So I said let it proceed, but let's be very careful about implicating people in such a dangerous scheme. We have seen where this road leads, a slippery slope. So that's why I play. Well, let's wait for the data.
We can come back to that later on. We got a lot of topics here. We'll come back to that. Let's go to the census here. There's a lot of calls that I've been getting. I think everybody here been having. Can Liberia actually have an election or a credible election, absence of an accurate, credible census in Liberia? Mr. Padmore, you have been a stickler on this particular issue. And for some reason, everybody texting your inbox, my inbox. Everybody's afraid or concerned about the census. Before I go to you, Mr. Padmore, I think Senator Dualu is actually on the road. I think we should go start with him because just in case we lose his.
Yeah, I think you will end up losing me. You're absolutely right. But I will say this about the census.
Dwallo, I think you will have to put a light on your car a little bit.
Yeah, I just put it down, but it's getting dark. I will have to lose you guys. But I will say this before I run away. The census will raise a lot of constitutional questions because it's not being properly done. That's number one. Number two, we've seen videos of the manipulation of some of the numbers across the country. And we understand now, given some of the conversations being held by some of these guys in the field, they're cooking up the number in a way to disadvantage other people in the political space to the benefit of the current administration. And these are serious problems. And I believe, given the way the census was done, some of the experts who have actually done the census in the past, including Mr. Williams on Spoon FN, that's actually spoken to these numbers, there are a lot of questions being raised. But Mr. Gilman, there's a lot of things going on. We will not have an election, given what is happening. Before I leave you guys, I want to leave with this comment that Mr. Gilman actually wobble in this. The only person who's been implicated with rebel activity in our country is President Weah. If anybody is bringing arms to the country, it will be President Weah. This man does not belong anywhere near the presidency. The man has to go. He has to go yesterday. I want to thank the audience and thank you so much for having me on. I can't really stay on right now because of it.
Mr. Dualu, we're going to keep your topic live. Hopefully you get home and get back
on.
Okay,
I'll be watching.
The article you read, very interesting. I want to drag you into it. So please hurry up and get back and drive safely. Drive the kids
yes, sir.
Home.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Eastman. Oh, no, back to Mr. Padmore. Mr. Padmore, we're talking about census here. Those of us who are into, you and I, we all have agreed the landmass that Liberia has, and the people that we know when you go to Grand Bassa, you go to Nima, you go to Lofa, there's no way we have 5 million people. So we've been 5 million, Mr. Eastman, Mr. Padmore, we've been 5 million forever. So what happened to our birth rate? There has to be something done about counting our folks, because I agree with you all that the census does more than just numbers. When we talk about international aid, listen, when people are giving out and ranking countries, when we talk about the importance, people will say, well, let's go to Nigeria first because there are more lives there to save, 250 million, whatever. And then as you come down the line, they will go to Sierra Leone first, that has about 8 million, 7 to 8 million people, before you go to poor Liberia, 4.55 million. So we will be, when they were giving life support, they will save everybody before they save us, because we are the smallest country, population-wise, in West Africa, to say, besides Togo maybe. So the census is very important. Mr. Padmore talked to me, because I know we have not had census since 2008, but yet and still we have been having elections over and over and over, and over, and we are still standing at 5 million, if you want to believe that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just looked up. Togo is actually 8.6 million.
Uh-huh.
I believe we are second to the Gambia. I believe they are almost 3 million. So I believe we are second to the Gambia. In land mass, yeah, we are the least. We are the least in West Africa. Look, there's so many avenues you can look at, so many approaches that you can look at this. The first one is constitutional. Liberian, constitutionally, we have a right to representation. And what that means is that as a Liberian, I have a right to have a representative in the House that represents my constituency. And that is why I believe for Liberia, I think it's 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
But for every 20,000 people, there should be a member in the House to represent that group, that district. There should be a district, and there should be a member in the House to represent those groups. When you have a greater number than that, then people are not being properly represented. That is a constitutional matter that can go as far as the Supreme Court. You know? And so the census is very, very important. Just on that level. Just on that level. If Monserrato is supposed to have 20 districts and they only got 17, they are underrepresented. We are short 3 votes. Each member of the House is a vote. And if we are short 3 votes, we are underrepresented. And we can take that to the Supreme Court. And so can you imagine other counties like Margibi that's growing faster even than Monserrato? Nimba that's growing. Ganta should be split into 2 right now. Tapeta and Ganta, can you imagine as large as the group of people are in that area, in lower Nimba, and you want to put it in one district? It's not going to happen. Margibi, the same thing. So many people moving into Margibi. They're taking up, they work in Monrovia, but yet they live in Margibi. That's their place of residence. So it is going to be, before we even transcend to things like donor community, getting loans, all those other things, you know, they look at statistics. How many children in Liberia, how many of them live under the poverty line? How many of them are this age? You know, if we cannot get that data, how do we then go out there and lobby for funds from the donor community? This is going to be a huge, huge tragedy against Liberian people. And census does not happen every day. If we announce these results and say this is the census, effectively what we are saying constitutionally, we don't have to do it again for another 10 years. Can Liberia really go through this for another 10 years on failed data? That's the question everybody needs to be asking themselves.
Mr. Eastman, Mr. Padmore has a point here. In 2008, I was in Liberia when the census was supposed to take place. And Ellen made it clear under no particular circumstance that, listen, when the census takes place, we will be bound to have representation in both in the House. And with that being, that will add to our wage bill. We are we are using 80% of the total budget on recurring cost, which is basically salary. 80%. And then we're going to add more, maybe another $10 million into it. Then now we're going to like maybe 91%. There will be nothing to do anything. So she wiggled her way out of that. And George Weah decided to attempt this. Was it a mistake on George Weah's part to even attempt this? Because Grand Bassa County, from what we understand, is bound to get minimum 3 seats. And Grand Bassa County is nothing compared to Nimba, Bong, Lofa, Magibi, in fact, Montserrat. So we are talking about close to maybe 50 representatives coming at maybe 1 or 2 million apiece. Can we afford another $100 million in recurring expenditure as we are now, Mr. Eastman? Was this a mistake to even agree to this?
Mr. Gaiman, the Constitution is the supreme body of laws in any country. And once you enact these laws and make it constitutional, we have to work within that constitutional document. We have to, unless we will not have a cohesive organization. Article 39 of the Constitution says that the legislature shall cause a census of the Republic to be undertaken every 10 years. And as the constituency thing, there's each constituency shall have approximately a population of 20,000 or such. And the legislature shall prescribe in keeping with the population growth and movements as revealed by the national census. In other words, the national census is part of how the political stratification will go on. And it also says that immediately following a national consensus and before the next election, the election commission shall reapportion the constituencies in accordance with the new population figures so that every constituency shall have as close to the same population as possible provided. So it is legally, the NEC, the government is legally bounded to have this, to hold this census and to get the figures in the NEC hands before any election is conducted. It is part of our Constitution, the highest body of law in the land. So you can clearly see, if we don't tread carefully, we're heading to a constitutional crisis, like Mr. Padma was saying. This thing has to be done. It is of paramount importance. Now we're talking about the political demarcation and stratification of constituency, but more importantly, for economic development and targeting, you need to know where are the people? Are more, during the war, many people migrated from the interior to Monrovia. Are people beginning to migrate back? How will we know how to target development in, let's say, Bapalu or Totota or all those other places? And that is how we can strategically plan. It is mind-boggling that this census has not been taken with the due caution that is and diligence that is needed. And if we do not straighten this out, beside the constitutional crisis, we'll have a developmental stagnation, because we will not know what to do, where to go, how to plan. So, I mean, it is of paramount importance that this census, whether late but it can't be never, but it must be properly done. so that we will not find ourselves in a quagmire of constitutional lawsuits and arguments.
Mr.
Mr.
Pat,
Gimme, you said something.
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to jump on that real
Mr.
quick.
Patmore, real quick before you go
Yeah.
there.
So,
Okay,
go ahead.
yeah, we were talking. I know you're going to come to that.
Mhm.
While you're answering the question, please look at the economic implication. Where
Yeah.
because of where we are now, the budget is so tight. We are giving
Yes.
an entire county $200,000 for
Yeah.
development. Without the concession agreement in these different counties, the whole country will be broke. That means every dime that's coming into our country is going to pay our lawmakers.
Mhm.
Basically, that's what it is.
Mhm.
At 80% recurrence, 80%. Now we're going to add another. What does this do to us as a country developmental? Why we have no money for utilities, we have no money for water, we have no money for roads, we have nothing. How do we develop a country? Where are we? Address that while you make.
Okay, thank you so much. And that's exactly what I wanted to address. So there are several approaches that you can take. I would hope that it's a multi-approach. The first thing is that Liberia is a smaller country, so obviously a portion of citizens to a district is smaller. In the U.S., to make a district, there's 700,000 people. Okay, to create one legislative seat, it's 700, and they're thinking about raising that number even to 1 million because the population is growing. Okay, that's one thing. That's one approach. You can increase that amount. That's the first thing you do. The second thing you can do is you can put a ceiling on the legislative budget and say, look, if we're spending 100 million on the legislature, we will continue. That will be the ceiling. No matter how many representatives that come in there, that will be the ceiling. You have to work with that money. What that means is that you cannot be buying $60,000 car every 3 years. You can't. That means that you cannot be paying yourself $10,000 a month. You got to reduce the money. What I'm trying to say is that we cannot allow these people to just run crazy with our budget. The budget is a competing interest. And the representatives, the Senate, they have to have the same pressure. So if we put a ceiling on them, so if they're getting 100 million and they're paying each other $10,000 and they increase by 50, guess what? You got to bring that money down because everybody got to get paid. So if it means that you reduce the salaries from 10,000 to 7,000, you do that. If it means that we go from 3,000, how many of us buy a new car, a brand new car with the new car smell inside with the plastic on the seat every 3 years? How many of us do that? How many normal human beings do that? Nobody in the whole world. Those are only welfare people that do such things. Why should our legislature be allowed to buy a brand new car every 3 years? For what? That way you see somebody get 2, 3, 4 there. Because by the time you feed them with your first time, they're not going to buy 3, 4 cars, And so, increase it from 3 years, maybe to 5 years. Reduce the amount, maybe from a brand new car to a certified used car. There's so many things we can do instead of letting people steal our money. And I'm making a general statement here because they are in the majority. And that's what the people need to do. Once we get up and we speak on these things, the people should not lack representation because the House of Representatives are living large. No, they should not. It should be the other way around. Let them cut their costs. Just how each one of us here, when we don't have enough, we sit at the kitchen table, we look at our budget, we live within our means. Let the speaker, the deputy speaker, the rest of the House of Representatives live within the means of the country. Thank you.
Yeah, and even let me just chime in. There's much more. I agree with Mr. Padmore. Instead of even a ceiling, you can say it should not exceed a certain portion, a percentage of the entire budget. But more so, we're giving all these legislators, we're giving them money to carry out county development in their counties. First of all, that is not the purpose of a representative. That is not his role as a lawmaker. He's to seek the interests of his constituents, but he's not supposed to. How will he know which developments to do? Number two, this money we're giving them is not accounted for. They do not make report. When do you know that government money is being spent and there's no accountability for it? This is something that is in broad day wrong right in front of us and is not being addressed. More government money should be accounted for. So first of all, we're giving them money that they shouldn't be getting. Second, they don't have to even account for the money, and they've been living on this for years now. So we have a huge budget for the council, for the legislature, that is not justifiable, and we need to, even nobody, we have three branches of government. We have the executive, we have the judicial, and then we have the legislative. But each one of those bodies need to be accountable to us. So if they come up with a budget for themselves, taking their salaries to an exorbitant height, we have to have a mechanism to say, no, you cannot do that. And all these things should be plain and simple. And this is why some of these things are failing, because we're not following and this is why I was telling you first, Mr. Gaiman, we have to follow rules if we're going to have a functional society. I mean, everybody has to do the same thing, and you cannot be above the law. But there are ways to do this, and in the Constitution, there's a limitation of how many constituents you can have. They put it to 100, but just like Padmore was alluding to, you can increase the number from 20,000. You can make it 50,000 as we grow. But they saw that there needs to be a limitation of amount of representatives that can be in the House. So what will have to happen? You'll have to simply carry the numbers up. But definitely, there's a lot of ways to save on that legislature budget, and there's a lot of ways we can cut down salaries, cut down allowances, cut down. If that is what is required to move our country forward, they should be the first to sacrifice their salaries.
Great. Mr. Padmore, one of the things that I saw, and this came about when Dillon came to power. There was an argument between Dillon and a member of the Hattiesburg Chorus Grade. It was the first time that I learned that Liberian government are purchasing cars, and these cars are actually in the personal name of the representatives. That when they leave office, they take all the cars with them. In this country, the United States government doesn't buy a car, they lease. So every now and then the car is turned in at no cost to the government. They just continue to pay for the car and they get a new car. In Liberia, they do it. I mean, I hate to say this, but we are so backward. We do everything the wrong way. We buy the car and put the car in the legislator's name. It is personal property. So when he's defeated, he takes everything in his office because his name is attached to it. The bill of sale is in his name. It came about when Dillon got elected. Some of us were saying he should use the old car that he had to save money, only to find out that the car was actually, the bill of sale was actually in the name of Geraldine Sharif.
Doe Sharif, yeah.
Yeah, Geraldine Doe Sharif was her personal property, and that was willed to next of kin, her husband, whoever. They came and took those cars, and they had to buy a brand new car in Dillon's name. So these are the kind of things we are talking. You talk about waste. That every 3 years, if you are in, let's say, Mr. Padmore was in the house for 9 years. So he got 3 cars. Three cars. When he leaves office, he takes all 3 with him. No questions at the loss of the government. Yes. So these are the things that we were hoping that the younger, not just Dillon, but younger people who have lived abroad, who have come and said, gentlemen, let us change some of these things, but this is not how it works, especially those who are traveled. So these are the things we are talking about, and I think this is a very, very great discussion. We got a lot of stuff we'll come back to. Let's go to the next one. Mr. Eastman, I'll start with you on this one. There's a big cloud brewing in Liberia from the Western Cluster. Mr. Padmore, I think we all have an idea what the Western Cluster is. A few years ago, There were 68 concession agreements signed, and a global witness came and said that they were badly written against the Republic. 66 of the 68 was against the Republic of Liberia and the folks. Not only that, but Edwin Snow just admitted on national TV that he and some government official, including the lands and mine minister, went to India and rewrote a contract that is a law. We're talking about the concession agreement was written between the Republic of Liberia and the Western Cluster, the VA Mountain, whoever they are, the name is. And it was signed by both legislative bodies, signed by the president. So it's the law of the land. The senator from Bomi County and some government official went behind, according to Mr. Snow, they went to India and rewrote, made an extra deal for $10 million. $5 million was paid, I guess, on the spot, and $5 million was supposed to be paid in government coffers, whatever that was. Whatever, whichever way they cut it, it is just wrong. Now we are finding out from a video yesterday, the company from Western Cluster saying what the government is trying to portray is not right because they have paid in excess of $350 million since 2011 to the Liberian government. Yet and still the people of Bomi, Bapolu, and Cape Mount do not have a fitting road. Yet their minerals have been taken out of the country. This is huge. If it is true, I want to have a disclaimer here. This is what we heard from the gentleman who said he is the HR for the Western Cluster. In excess of $300 million has been paid to the Liberian government since 2011. Mr. Eastman, if this is true, or even partially true, $300 million, to whom have this money been paid? How? Our people live in abject poverty. And yet and still, these people are living large, flying private jet everywhere, money. You and I here working, we can barely make ends meet. These people are talking not 5,000, 10,000. We're talking about hundreds of millions. We're not talking about small money here. Mr. Eastman.
Yeah. So this issue is very interesting, but it's not uncommon. And this is why we see in several places in the world, these places that are mineral rich, where they have the diamonds, the oil, the returns when the country reaps the benefits of the extraction, it is not rechanneled to developing that neighborhood. We've seen this happen a lot. In fact, this same area, Bomi, where they had the bone mine, the lamp. I believe Lamco was down there before. During the 50s, that was a very robust mining operation.
Yeah, LMC.
LPNC, right?
LMC.
Very,
yeah.
LMC.
LMC,
very robust.
NIOC, the Liberian National Iron
Right.
Corp, they were all in that same area.
It was very robust. But how much development ever went to Bomi? I'm not talking about recently. I'm talking back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
How much? What do we see in Bomi? When the old people left, Bomi just died. Nothing going on. No. You don't see schools. You don't see roads. You don't see nothing has developed. So it has to be part of our policies that where we extract these minerals, we have to do something for the people that are there, so they realize the benefit. I'm a little bit surprised to hear all this going on in Western culture, because just the other day in 2010, Ellen Johnson's Sirleaf government signed a 1.6. I mean, this area is called the 1.6 billion Western culture. It's not a company. It's where the iron ore is, and the company name was Elenito Mineral Mining Limited. And they too had been awarded this contract for this project, and the cabinet and there were discussions and all of that about it. And here we see again the same area. Another group has come. It tells me that we have not been, these things have not been totally transparent, and it's because this lack of transparency, it's clouded in mystery and stuff, so we don't know what's really going on. Until we start being transparent in these transactions, let the people know exactly what is happening, I think we're going to see the more of this. And that is why we're seeing this today. The Bomi people, just yesterday, they carried out a vote that they are not going to allow this to happen. So what is going to happen in recent days? Again, it all goes back to the fact that we're not rechanneling the resources, the gains from these mining concessions. We're not giving back to the people, and I think that is where the real problem is. That we're signing an agreement, we're not giving back to the people. There is too much lack of transparency in these agreements, and they all need to be revisited and brought to light and voted upon before we continue.
Mr. Padmore, before you come in, let me say this to you, and this has nothing to do with partisanship. This is just badness, wickedness. I'm talking about wickedness at the highest level. You talk about poor bombing. There is no county besides, maybe not even Monrovia, that come close to bombing. Little bombing produced the President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the Speaker of the House Tyler, Speaker of the House Snow. We're talking about Morris Satuma. We're talking about Johnson in that little cluster with all these powerful folks. And they are what? 27 miles from the capital city with all this money. And you are telling me that they are so backward that they treat their own people this way. No country, no county in the Republic of Liberia have produced that many speakers, president, top senators. We talk about the power brokers of the world in that little place called Bombing.
Yep.
And yet still, this is happening. And it tells us there is something more to this than meets the eye. Like my grandfather used to say, hey, y'all 5 boys going to swim and you're going across. The first guy goes there and drown. The second guy goes and drown. The third guy goes and drown. The fourth guy goes and drown. And if the 5th man goes, then he's a damn fool. So when all these people are falling, Mr. Pablo, Mr. Eastman, does it give you any interest or any courage to go to Liberia and get involved with the politics, knowing that everybody that goes into Liberia gets swallowed up by this? Because there is no way you're going to tell me that I am smarter than all of those people, or you are smarter, more patriotic than everybody that have gone to this place. I mean, everybody, including our own friend Dylan and all these new guys that came in young, the grays of the world, these guys are supposed to come and make a difference. And they get in there and they wallow into this, and all of a sudden they become not defender of the people, but defender of the system. Mr. Padmore, there has to be something about Liberia.
Oh, wow. Where do I start? There definitely is something about Liberia. That's something that needs to change. And it's not one big change. It's many changes, many small changes that will create the one big change for Liberia. You mentioned the history of Bomi. When I was growing up, they used to call Bomi Hills Bomi Holes, because the people came into Bomi, they mined Bomi, and they just left holes there. And that was a nickname for Bomi Holes. Look, we need to be more nationalistic. We so easily sell our country and our resources for little or nothing for selfish gain. All you see happening here with this Western cluster is selfish gain. A few people trying to get what little they can get out of it, and to hell with everybody else.
It's a
To hell with
battle.
everybody else.
It's a battle. With all due respect, there's no such thing as little. We're talking about 350 million. You said little they can get. No, these people.
No, but what I mean is, it's still little.
Jeez.
Look, this company is $1 billion company. So even when you look at it from the scope of 300 million, that money that's small. Liberia should gain more by far more than that. Liberia should gain by far more than that. But what is happening? The people that we entrust to go and do these negotiations, they go there looking for the brown envelope. In all honesty, they don't care what is in the concession agreement. What they care about is what's in the brown envelope. That is what they care about. That is their focus. And until we can start bringing in people to justice, Liberia will not change. Until we can abandon. Look, if you look at the Western cluster, which is Bomi, Kidma, Bapolu, right? I believe those are the three countries they call Western cluster.
Yes.
Almost every major political party is represented fully in the legislature from those three countries.
Yeah.
So this is not a party thing. It is not a party issue. It's a Liberian issue. We need to be more nationalistic. And the people are right. How can we pay a government over $300 million? Then you asking us for a clinic. Then you asking us to fix the road. The money we're giving the government, what are they doing with it? What are they doing with the money? Do you see Walmart building school? Do you see Walmart fixing road? No. Walmart comes into the community, they pay the requisite taxes. They employ the people. That's what they do. They create economic activity. And they expect the government and the people now to work together to provide those things that make up a suitable community. We need to stop looking to these companies for those things. You and I can hold that company, but we can hold our lawmakers. They are the ones that are doing this. That concession agreement you signed, did you have a community meeting? Did you speak with the people of Bomi? Did you break it down to them? Did you explain to them? Did they agree? Or you just took one or two people, you went to India, you caught it there, and then you just came out and forced it down the throat of the people of Bomi. You know, you just forced it down the throat of the people of Bomi. And I'm really, really excited with the avenue that the people of Bomi are taking. I'm just hoping and praying that cash violence is not introduced, because it's always the last resort. Cash violence. Heavy payment, then the story die. That Liberia story right there. I'm hoping that for once, the leaders of Bomi will stand up above money and put Bomi County above cash violence, above brown envelope. And they will stand up for their country because it is their future. It is you can't be that rich. You cannot be that rich and be that poor at the same time. For your children, even not for yourself, people of Bomi, do it for your children.
Yeah, but Mr. Padmore, this is not the political leaders have failed the people. They have taken, like Barabbas used to say, you skim off 20% of the people's money off the top before it gets to them. So the representative, the senators, the former president, the speaker, they have all gotten paid. So it is now the company, the leaders are on the side of the company. So now it is 2 against 1. The poor people against the 2 giants. The folks now who are trying to rise up, they are now going to be victim of cash violence. Let's say, come on, man, like Padmore, let's take out the Padmore and just say the Michaels of the world, the Jimmys of the world, the Jeromes of the world, trying to rise up in bombing. And now you got like the Snow, the Setoma, the Ellen, and all these people now come here and say, you know, this is here. You call all the chiefs and all that, and chief, they your little thing here, tell the devil to go back in the bush. Devil, here's your gallon of King Jews, and then I go back in them. And now everything dies down because those who were supposed to put the heat on the leaders have all gotten their little thing, and they're all going back, and they think just going to die a natural death. From what I'm seeing, there's no way you can go against Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Edwin Snow, Tyler, and the rest of the guys and win. There has to be a miracle for this to happen. I don't see this going anywhere because the regular people stand no chance. It's a Padmo.
Well, I'm hopeful. Sometimes when you're up against the wall, all you can do is hope. I'm hoping that the one man that can rise above this, which is President George Weah, can commission an investigation. Can commission an investigation. Don't point no finger. Don't call anybody guilty. Just say people are bombing. Let's look in the team. Let's see what's in the team. Let's see who getting paid. Let's see where the money went. And let's for once hold those people out.
Mr. Padmo, and not to cut you off, I am a supporter of the president, and you know this, but the president and Edwin Snow, they are very close friends, and Edwin Snow is into this corruption, according to what we are hearing, for his own mouth. And this man, who is a right-hand man of the president, of my president, is engrossed into this. Why I don't want to hold the president responsible to say he's part of this. The president is wholly and solely responsible for what is going on here, and he has to get to the bottom of this. Our people are dying.
You have to. You have to rise above your friends now.
Nothing to do. I mean, our people are dying.
And there's money.
And President Weah, anybody in the CDC that is listening, this has something to do with the people, and you are the representative of the people. You came to power. You say power to the people. The people are powerless in bombing. All of the top government officials, including Ellen and Snow and the CDC and all of these folks that won the election and then switched over to CDC, they switched over to CDC for a reason.
Yes.
We don't want them to take that cover. You have to take that cover over there, expose them for who they are, and let the people of bombing get justice. Mr. Eastman, before we move on close on this, so we can move on to the biography, but I am hot under the collar. I understand you. We all have experienced some poverty, okay, with the exception of Mr. Padmore here. But Mr. Eastman, you and I have experienced, you know, we poor. Somebody said the war from Monrovia to Riverside. Somebody said the war from Monrovia to Lofa. Those guys know where.
Riverside Pro.
Yeah, Riverside Pro. He war from Monrovia to Riverside. A partner to a private jet. Yeah, go ahead.
You made mention that one person going in there would just be ensconced in the massive corruption that they will encounter, but it has to be ideology, people who think alike. And the only way you will get people to think alike if you spread the word, spread the idea, and begin to fertilize the soil, and that is the minds of the youth and the people, that things can be better, but we will have to elect people that will truly represent us. And each and every time they try to pull a bag over our heads, we tell them, no, you cannot do that. But we have to keep on exposing this, keep on educating them. And then once they get educated, begin to show them how they, through peaceful interaction, they can change things for themselves. We have had people in the past. What they're advocating is not wrong. It may be in for the people, but violence is never a good solution. And that is the mistake they made before. So, but our task, our goal, is to make them aware of these things, not for them to act uncivilly, but for them to begin to process their thoughts in a way that they were elected people and they will stand up for their rights. We can do this, but we'll have to get more and more people agreeing with one idea, one concept about how we should go about stopping these things from going on and challenging them when they do go on in the legal way. And we can get it done, but it will require fertilizing the people's mind so that they will grow into the kind of citizens that take the responsibility onto themselves.
Great. Mr. Padmo, real quick, I want you to chime in on this in 1 minute, so we'll go to the biography here. I want my senators from Grand Bassa County, Jonathan Carpe, Nyomli Kanga, my friends in Monrovia, Darrell Dillon, Sir Joseph, and so forth. When you are a senator from a county, you are not just a senator for your county. That is a nationwide position. You cannot only represent the people from Grand Bassa County. I'm talking about my sister, Nyobli Kanga. We don't want you to posture because you want to be vice president. We want you to champion the cause of the people or causes of the people outside of Grand Bassa County. What is going on in the Western cluster is a crime against humanity. And we all have to speak up. Don't let anybody tell you from Grand Bassa County, no, you are from Liberia. And this has nothing to do with now the skill is getting out of my eye that I'm seeing the corruption. No, this is wrong. It doesn't matter who does it. Let's go into the biography of President Weah, written by journalists Rodney C. Even though we have not read it all, but we have seen snippets. I saw him on another show where obviously he was giving a teaser onto the show, and I have an invite to go to the luncheon in Washington D.C. Mr. Eastman, I think you should RSVP. It would just be a place to go to encourage our journalists, our writers, and he said part of that money is going to his scholarship. He told a story that touched my heart. A girl that is going to be the benefactor, beneficiary of this particular sales from their book is a young lady who is now a nurse. But she was the only survivor in her family. Everybody in her family died from the Ebola. She was the only survivor. And she managed to make it through nursing school through his help. And she is now a registered nurse. And she is going to be benefiting from the sale, part of the sales of this book. So why it's going to be a bittersweet. This is a cause that we all need to rally around. I'm a seditian. The book may not be flowery to the president. It may be flowery to the president, but I like what he said. Don't condemn the book, just buy it. And when you buy it, then you will find out what's inside. When in your hand now, whether you like it or not, it's too late. But this is where we are, Mr. Padmore. A book written by the president. He made it clear he wanted to interview the president, and the president said he was not ready. But anyhow, he talked to people who are familiar with the president, president's friend, and he wrote a book. And he said, as a journalist, he had to be fair and balanced. He was fair to the president, but he didn't spare the rod like a child. Your take on it?
Yeah. So yeah, I've known for this. I've known about this book for a while. From what I've seen, the excerpts I've seen from the book, everybody will find something in the book to like, and everybody will find something in the book to critique, which makes it a very good book. I believe that's the most balanced approach. But it is, it's beautiful that we are now writing about our leaders. We are putting it on paper. Independent people are doing so. There's not Todd time where Todd is a sanction book to make it look good inside. But I think there's a great opportunity. I will encourage every librarian that has the means. I believe, let me not call it press, but I believe the book is going to be affordable. And I believe every librarian that has the means should purchase the book and read the book, and have discussions amongst themselves concerning the book. Um, like I said, it's from what the essays I've seen, it's very very detailed. Um, you can disagree, but there's a few things I disagreed with. I could not come up with a counter, which means that he did a lot of investigation before coming out with those claims. And I think he's done well. I will encourage others to do the same. And not just about the president. We have many leaders. And some of them, the president is still, he's not a youthful man, but he still has, age on his side. We have a lot of leaders now that are in the sunset of their lives. That we are not doing due diligence. We lost Emma Sawyer last year. You know, and is there ever going to come a book about Emma Sawyer? A man that transcended many decades of political life. You know what I mean? But we have to write about these leaders. We have to. I'm hoping that one day, my hope is that one day this book and many books like it will actually become academic works that our children and our children's children can read in school and study about our leaders and get a more focused approach on why we are where we are, and hopefully they will be able to use that to try and navigate where we go. So that's my piece on that. I plan on being there April 1st in Washington, D.C. So I'll definitely see you gentlemen there. And it will be a good time. It will definitely be a good time.
Great. And to my fellow cities here, those are who love our president, this notion that the president has to give you the right. Jesus Christ been dead, 3,000 years? And every day we are writing new books, new Bible, different versions, and coming with different translation about Jesus Christ and his life. I'm not equating George Weah to Jesus Christ, but what I'm saying here is you do not need that. But George Weah, whether you like him or not, is a celebrity, worshipped, and his life from rag to riches. Books will be written, movies will be made. It is unheard of. The chances of Padmore, Eastman, Jerome Gamer becoming president of Liberia is 5 million to 1. And we say with 5 million people in Liberia, if we take that number, the chances are 5 million to 1. So, President, we are alive will be written and rewritten. My first assignment in graduate school when I was doing social stratification was a gentleman that wrote a book. They say was controversial, but was text. The darker side of Thomas Jefferson, because people have worshipped this man, and somebody went and did a detailed research on how terrible this man was. This man that was preaching democracy and human rights, constitutional democracy, was as bad as it could be. He had slaves. Not only did he have slaves, but he had children by these slaves. And while he was ambassador to France, he had a whole house full of black women. And all of these, this is a man who loved black women, but yet and still he was persecuted, saying that this should not happen. And then when you go to his home and his farm, it was controlled by black folk. So he exposed the darker side of Thomas Jefferson, and they brought some legal action from the Jeffersonians, people who believed that this man was God. Okay, so here we are. President Weah. Nobody needs to get a permission from you to write your biography. When you are done, you can write something called autobiography. That is auto means your own. You can write your own book. And even you write your own book, we will say you made it up. There were some things you would want to make yourself look good. That's the truth. When I read my own book, I would want to be close to Jesus Christ as I can. But would I be factual? No. So, Mr. Eastman, chime in here. I love my president, but this one here, I'm on the side of the writer. You do not need a permission to write about a celebrity, write about a president, write about anybody.
Yeah, you know, Sia is a renowned journalist, in like one of the most renowned journalists in Liberia. I think he comes on under the tutelage of Ne- Neville Best, who started the Daily Observer. And so it is interesting that someone with such a profound journalist skill has chosen to write the story about President Weah. I mean, before his coming to politics, President Weah was a star on the international scene. My question of is why is Sia interested in writing about Weah? His story is not complete yet. Still a young man. He still he still has a presidency that he has not completed. Why at this time are you writing it? Um, and he chose Weah. Why didn't he choose Ellen? We all know Ellen has been in the trenches, in the political trenches for decades, decades after decades after decades. She's been to jail. She's been on the other side of opposition, and you going out against opposition against military tyrants and stuff. You have to be very brave. Today I see the opposition. They have no idea. We have a democracy now. But before, if you wanted to exercise your democratic um, franchise, you'd be putting your whole family in danger. So she has a longer history that I thought he would have wanted to write about, though she wrote her own book. So even though I agree with you, Mr. Gaiman, we should write about our people like Sawyer. Why wouldn't he write about Sawyer? Sawyer, again, he's one of those who've been very influential. These are the guys who used to talk to the university people, and the university people go out and talk to people. People like Famule, people like Tipote. Those guys were in the one of the people who are influencing people for the change we see today. Um, but he didn't write about them. He wrote about Mr. Weah, who has yet to come, to realize his full life expectancy. I think there's more to tell. And to add to that, Mr. Weah had no input in the book. So I'm going to be interested. Mr. Padma has skimmed the book apparently. I'm going to be interested to read it. But I think the story is not completely told yet. I think there's more to tell, and I'm curious to know why now. Why did he decide to do it? Why at this time, where there was other choices he could have made?
Mr. Padmore, real quick. Um, Mr. Sia is a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
And in business, we say, hit the iron while it is hot.
Hot, yep.
Mr. Padmore, you and I wrote a book today about Jesus Christ. I don't think we'll sell 5 copies.
No.
But if we wrote a book today about Trump, if you wrote a book today about Barack, I don't think it's going to sell.
No, not that much.
There you go. So it's the book has to have it has to entice people. It has to develop your appetite. Who is the most talked about person now in the world in the Liberian sense? Is George Weah.
Yep.
And his book will not sell.
No.
And someone said, why now? When? Do you want me to read my book when the man has left office? Let the pastor people say the snake now pass, then you go beat it. You go beat the bush, wasting your time. Yeah. We want now why everybody interest is high. Because listen, even if this is just a snake oil, I tell you, listen, buy this book. Something inside. You don't know what inside when you buy it. Inside, and that's it. But why our interest is at the highest peak. So right this year is running an institution, a media house. When you talk about all the media houses, why you think they would pay Oprah Winfrey $10 million to write a book, or the serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, Why would somebody pay to write a story about him and all of that, and they will not pay a dime to write the Bible? Because nobody has interest in turning water to beer or wine, whatever that is. But I want to know what gets into somebody's mind to kill other people and eat their bodies. So, Mr. Pablo, before we move on to the last one, just tell us, you as a businessman, as two businessmen for the business side, why it makes so much sense for Mr. Rodney Seattle to turn the screw up and invite everybody and tell them, I got something here, you're kind of boogeyman here. Nobody have ever seen what a boogeyman is, but we are afraid of boogeyman.
You're absolutely right. So the first thing is that this is not the first book about George Weah. There was a book that came out before, and that book gripped the headlines. That's the first thing. The second thing, right now, George Weah, standing on his own, is the most popular man in Liberia. This is election year, so everybody looking for juice. The other thing is, you have to weigh the risk. If you wait until after the elections and George Weah loses, nobody will buy that book. Nobody has time again. The man's a past president. All his opponents, all of the people that come here against him, nobody will get time for that book. The man go on, man, you'll get that book. But now was the most perfect time to write that book. So now the opponents of George Weah will be rushing to buy that book because they won't find out the juice that is there. The lovers of George Weah will be rushing to buy that book because they won't find a good thing in Weah to counter the other part. And so there's going to be an upheaval. And I believe it was right. You know, one last thing I would say in Mr. C.S. favor. You know, he is the author of the book, but in writing a book, you have a complete team, including the publisher. And those people are interested also in the marketing aspect. So they help to make a decision when that book is going to come out. Okay. And not running there alone and deciding this.
But Mr. Padmore, let me be fair here. Or Mr. Eastman, you can chime in. When Bob Woodward wrote a book about the president, he had some recordings, some other stuff, and at least had a consent. And it was not done during an election period. So those who are on the other side would say, while some of us agree that you can write a book anytime, there are those who are on the other side who are suspicious. The campaign opens voter registration opens March the 21st.
Yeah.
And right after voter registration campaign is in full swing, April the first week, you open this book about President Weah and you say it's going to be good, it's going to be bad. So those who are on the other side are saying, listen, this is more political than it is journalistic or business. Yes, it has some business tone, but it also has some biases. The timing and everything is a political book.
But whatever is more good than bad, then the president benefit.
Mr. Eastman, Mr. Padmore is on the opposite side for ANC, so he loved this book. In fact, he wanted the book to come out in October, 5 days before election. He wants it, so he's actually mad with Rodney Seay for putting out the book so far that President Weah can recover. He wanted on the 1st of September. October 10th is election. This is a political book, according to the other folks.
Well, it is yet to be seen. I was asked Liberians to let read it. But who's going to be reading it, Mr. Gaiman? Which part of the intelligentsia, the people on the internet, the Mom Mary is selling her market will be reading that book. If you want this information to be circulated throughout for everybody to know, I'm just curious, the audience that will be reading the book,
But what's about the pro George Weah for my people, including myself? I'm having some reservation. Washington D.C. couple of months before election. Now I'm saying the same question you're asking: who is the targeted audience? Is it the power base of Washington? Is it the State Department? Is it the Enterprise Institute where all these folks that were hired by the Cummings to write? We remember this Michael guy who have written all this nonsense about the president. Is it a lobbyist? Are you giving them enough tools to discredit the president and all of that. So, Mr. Padmore, this is where they are coming from. And let's be honest here, these are legitimate points. Who is the targeted audience? Because definitely it's not Mayata that's selling the beta boy in Lofa County. It's not Mayeto in Grand Bassa County. This is actually for we the 1%ers in Liberian society. We are the one, the power brokers in Washington, D.C. and around the world in the diaspora. This is not about Liberia. Liberian people will not read a book.
You look,
450 pages long, he says.
Here's the thing. The first book that I written about George Weah, all the people that were discussing all inside, more than 90% of them didn't buy that book or read the book. Really, let's be honest here. 90% of people that were discussing what was in the book, what was said about George Weah, they didn't buy the book or read the book. So you don't necessarily have to buy the book, become an audience of the book. That's the first thing. But like you said, Mr. C is a businessman. You gotta go where the money is. How many people in Monrovia can afford to pay $15, $16, $17, $20 for a book? But what about Obama Corporate Rest? If I spoke from before, I go and pay $20 for a book to read. So you have to market it to people who have the means to purchase the book. That's the first thing. The second thing is that Mr. C he stated very clearly that he has been trying to get a venue in Liberia to go ahead and launch the book in Liberia, and he can't for some strange reason.
Well,
all that adds to the plot.
I won't let you sneak in
all
with
that adds to the plot.
There were people calling and saying we own hotels, we own restaurants, we own facilities. Mr. C have never come to us. If he has applied anywhere, let him show the receipt like the CPP did. Or the CPP, the ANC folks went and said, here is our receipt. We went to sports ministry, we paid $2,000 deposit, and they have to give us the venue. Mr. C have never shown any proof that he gone anywhere. This is what created.
Why are you so nervous? You haven't read the book.
No.
Why
But he's
nervous?
I can tell you here category that he lied because he would have said, this is my receipt. I got my receipt here. I went to Hotel Africa. I went to how do you call the other place?
So this is what's happening right now. So that's what's happening right now.
He brought no proof. He just came out and said, everybody's afraid to lease me a place.
So there's why. So since that's not the case,
that is a lie. Now this one,
that is not the case. Why are you so nervous?
That is here lie. That was
read the book.
You lied to me. You sounded like Charles Taylor. He said, "You want to know what I'm talking about? Read my book."
Read the book.
Mr. Eastman, we are going to the next topic. The next topic is the argument against and pro the re-election of President Weah. That was an article written by Dualo. He was supposed to be on to discuss that. So we are going to actually carry over to next Sunday. Yeah. We got 10 minutes here. Mr. Eastman, close your closing. We got 2 minutes on your part to actually encapsulate everything, summarize, and see where we're going to touch on the Western cluster, touch on the census, touch on everything else, and then we close on from here.
Yeah. So if we're not very careful, we're headed to a constitutional crisis. This census, there's a lot of things riding on it. And if I were to talk to, I guess the Minister of Finance was heading this this project. We need to get this project on the road. There's too much things contingent upon a good census results. I don't think it's something that we should just try to wing, and fudge the numbers. And I don't think it would be in the favor of any other party, whether the opposition or the government. So I think there has to be this thing has to get on track. We have to get. I don't know how they would get it on track, but I don't think they should only look at deadlines or rather of the quality of the work that you want to deliver. And if we do not address it properly, we can see it will have its consequences later on. We need to have people that stand for our people. If our people they're going to suffer the extraction processes, the exhaust fumes, the poisoning of the waters, and they don't benefit anything from all this mineral extraction is completely unfair. We need policies that will give back to that land, that would obligate the government or the parties involved to develop that land, to develop that people, so that when they leave, they don't leave like how MPMC left Bomi, and Bomi became a ghost town. Like how Lamco left Yekeba, and Yekeba became a ghost town. We need to negotiate deals that will be in our favor and not in the pockets of other people, or few. And that is what's been in the past. And I know people have been criticizing the old government. They say the old Congo people used to do this, and then you see these people doing the same thing in 2022. It's disheartening that we just completely disregard our people and our country over and over again. It doesn't matter who; they're all doing the same thing. This is very disheartening. And lastly, the rule of law is something we will have to do. It's not, you say you get a police enforce the rule of law or the government enforce the rule of law, but really we have to espouse the rule of law. And that is going to be our citizen responsibility. I don't know, I don't think it's being taught, but we have to make it our responsibility that rules are adhered to, even though we see people breaking the rules. But the more of us start saying, no, these rules are not right to be broken, the more of us spread that belief, that idea, the stronger we will become, and eventually we'll overcome the tide of corruption and breaking of rules. That's what it is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Padua. We got 3 minutes here. Go ahead.
Okay. So, concerning the guns, it's concerning. We know our history. I think the investigative body, whether it's a joint security, they need to be more thorough. They need to be more transparent, and they need to make sure that this investigation comes to a logical end. And if indeed the crimes were committed, and laws were broken, those people need to be brought to justice. It is one of the things that is killing our country, where we have these things that happen and nothing comes out of it, nothing at all. In a few months, we're going to be talking about the George Weah book, and that will be it. Nobody will be talking about guns anymore. And because of that, people depend on those things to not adhere to the law. They depend that they're not going to be held responsible. And so the government has a responsibility to make sure those things happen. Somebody brought to my attention how during I think it was the January 7th or whatever, December 30th, or protest in Liberia, the Liberian National Police came out and to the public and said they have found guns in a lawmaker car. Nothing came out of it. You can't do such things. You just can't. What happened from that day? Nobody has heard anything about that story again. It just died. Concerning the census, look, the census is more important than we think. These are not just numbers. These numbers mean things. Okay, whether it's for elections, what is concerning the Constitution, it just concerns how we'll allocate our meager resources across the country, so that every Liberian has an opportunity to feed off the resources of Liberia. They are so important. They are so important. I don't believe that this government is so incompetent.
We got 30 seconds.
Oh, sorry. I don't believe this government is so incompetent that they can't get it right. They can get it right. They just need to be focused. And I will end with that one.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. Mr. Padmore, thank you very much. Mr. Eastman, thank you very much. We got 1 minute here. I want to say thank you to those who are tuning in. Yes, the weapon thing is serious. And I think a lot of people saying the opposition is behind this, because when Yeka Kaluba said, you won't know where gun come from, we will shoot, we will do this. People are suspicious. We want to know who has the ability to do so. Most people say only companies got the money and the ability to do this. So all of these things are in the making. We suspect that the joint security do a thorough job, and they will tell us what's going on here. The Western Cluster, Mr. President, I'm your supporter. You know 100%, but you have to get to the bottom of this. I know it goes all the way to 2010, but you still have to get to the bottom and make sure that the people are bombing and the Western Cluster are done. As far as the book is concerned, I think Rodney C.A. is a businessman, but he has some politics on his feet. The time, the place is all political, and he's trying to take this skill against the president at this time. But we're going to fight this. We're going to make sure that we straighten it out. Ladies and gentlemen,
go read a book, man. Go read a book.
Thank you for coming. I'm going to do the best I can to be there. I know my buddy Keith is going to be there. I'm going to be there. My first time meeting Keith Hassan personally. We're going to be there to make sure that we peruse the book and critique the book. Mr. Padmo, thank you. Mr. Eastman, hopefully you can be there too in DC.
Definitely, I will be there.
Share notes. I know this is strictly biased. This book is going to be biased. I'm going to buy the book, and it's going to a good cause. I wish you would have sent some of that money to the Cloud Weir Foundation, but whatever it is, we are going to do a separate fundraiser for Cloud Weir Foundation. She's doing a great job. First lady, I take her my hand. Ladies and gentlemen, same time, simply next year. As always, we end the show with We Are All Liberian. Stay tuned.
We are Liberian.